All right, and welcome back to another video. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic day or evening whenever you're watching this or listening to this. And before we get into today's topic, Dad, you're out traveling. You were just talking to my daughter, your granddaughter. Where are you right now? You want to give a little update on what you're up to right now? You're on mute.
Yeah, I've been going through a tour for the past 10 days now. And right now I'm in Querétaro, Mexico. So I've been going through different cities in California and also in Mexico City, in different locations in state Mexico. And now in Querétaro, I'm working with a number of doctors and doing some instructions and participating in some of the events that they have. Some are online, some are for training purpose to some therapists and doctors. Good to be here from Mexico and doing this recording.
Awesome. That's one of the blessings of technology that we can have this conversation even when you're miles and miles and miles away.
Yeah, is that nice?
Hey, but I guess to introduce today's topic, as we've talked about before in the past, our emotional state affects our physiology. And the topic we want to address today has to do with headaches and migraines. All of us have had a headache, and it doesn't feel nice especially when we're trying to go through our day, whether you're a parent, whether you're at work, you're at school, having a headache, especially when that headache turns into a migraine, it really just throws off your whole day. And so really, I want to start off, Dad, can you explain, why do we get headaches and then migraines in the first place? Like, what is the cause behind this?
Well, this manifestation that come with pain in different levels are the result of some variability, the process of being alert and being calm. So the nervous system, the nervous system has produced a number of behaviors that are physiological. Okay? So literally, we have a moment of alert. If I'm intentionally thinking, for example, I need to do work, so there's going to be an alert. And that has to do with chemicals, different neurotransmitters, hormones. And then there's going to be signals into the blood vessels. We have about 49,000 kilometers of blood vessels all over the body. And it's about 400 kilometers of blood vessels in the brain. So these blood vessels are, where, it travels nutrients and oxygen. So in the process of being alert, there is contractions. Okay, contractions in certain parts of the brain, these blood vessels, and there is dilation other parts of the brain. The purpose is kind of orchestrate, the physiological activity, and also produce signals for, being focused on doing what you're supposed to do at the moment. I gotta do work. I gotta study. I have to go and cook. So, and then there is another process immediately that it has to do with being calm. Being calm is the same blood vessels now dilate. And then again, as I'm opening the books, eh, I found something that I don't know. For example, if I'm studying for an exam, and as I'm reading, I find that there is something that talks about history that I did not pay attention. So again, this process of alert, so there's focus, and then calm, relaxation. So this is an orchestrated activity that it happens all day, regardless of whether you're going to cook or you have to confront some challenges, or it's just minor things like walking to the car. I want to go and do grocery shopping. So the alert and the calm. So it's a process that, is continuous taking place. The problem is if the alert process is being too long than it's supposed to be.
Mm.
So that can create eventually some problems, because when it's contractions in these blood vessels, it's going to be less energy, okay, in
Mm.
certain parts of the brain, okay, and then less nutrients in that part of the brain, and that's okay, for short time, and it's okay, and it depends on what is really happening. If somebody is putting a gun on my head, the
Uh-huh.
alert goes for a longer time, and it's good. That's not going to damage me. That will help me to solve the problem. I'm going to decide to give the money to the guy, maybe run, I don't know, maybe fight him, okay, whatever it is. So, but then once when this process is complete, its purpose, it goes back to calm. So uh, within a psychological stress, which is something that's created by we focus too much on something that's not happening anymore. It's gone. The history is gone. The guy is gone. He took my wallet. I give it to him, or I already knock him down, or maybe I run and I'm gone and I'm protected. So if we keep repeating the episode in our mind, no, by building thoughts and entertaining thoughts that and now the alert process and the memory of the past, because it's registered, in my brain, it keep pounding on the mechanism of alert. So, and that is not only somebody, want to rob me, but it could be anything, anything, even the simplest thing. If we don't understand, this process, can create that uh, uh, interference
Mm.
with going back to calm, or staying in a process where alert and calm is just being like a dance, no? See, I
Uh-huh.
mean, you don't want to be calm, during the day all the time. That's not good. Okay. So the calming part where extended is when you are getting closer to sleep. So now
Mm.
there are chemicals like melatonin, adenosine, that they start kind of interacting just to be sure the alert part it is lower, you know, in the threshold, and the calm part is a little bit more extended and higher. So you start being tired. It's 9:30, 10, and you want to be on bed, and that's very good. See, during the day it has to be an interaction between both of them. So if for any reason this process of being alert or the signals to the blood vessels to contract for longer times, too many times, okay, for longer periods or higher periods, then it can produce a lack of nutrients in the brain. So I could experience some headaches. Okay, and that's a signal. It's just a signal. There's something that you have to probably change in your life. Now that not only can be psychological, can be also physiological. Can happen. Like I'm not drinking water, so then I can have a headache. I'm exposed to too much radiation. I could have a headache because there is some problems. I'm not eating on time. Okay? I'm not sleeping on time. I'm sleeping too, few hours than I'm supposed to. Then there is now a physiological stress that produces the same effect. No?
Mm.
A contraction for too long in these blood vessels, and a lack of enough nutrients and oxygen in certain areas of the brain, and then you can have a light headache. No?
Right.
That can become
So
chronic.
so then just to clarify, whether it's because of psychological stress or some kind of physiological stress from lack of sleep, or like you were saying, lack of water, at the what's happening in the body is that your blood vessels are contracting, and so your brain is not getting enough nutrients, and so that is I guess the cause behind the pain. It might not be the root cause of why it's happening in the first place, but that's at least what's going on, right? You have a contraction.
Yeah, and this is also associated with additional, as I would call them, poison things that we leave in the brain, in the blood vessels. That could be a lot of toxicity, you know, that it is because I didn't sleep enough hours. That toxicity that's created because I don't have enough water to flow, chemicals. A toxicity that became created by some other things that can affect. I'm not eating, so there's inflammation. I'm eating too late, there's inflammation. I'm eating things that produce inflammation, like sugar, a lot of flour, anything that's been processed. That can produce inflammation. So these chemicals also can affect not only blood vessels but also nerves. So the nerves could be affected because there are nerves that arise to these blood vessels because these nerves, they have to be uh, you know they need to receive nutrients too, because
Mhm.
they have activity. They're doing things. They processing information. They're recording information. They communicating with the rest of the body. So that's
So
just
then,
some of the potential out there.
let me ask you, because headaches. I mean, everyone's had headaches. Sometimes you have a headache and then it kind of just goes away. But what's happening when maybe you have a headache that then turns into a migraine? Like, because migraines, those are much worse than just your normal headache, and that can really take someone out. Like literally, like for the rest of the day, they just feel sick. They don't feel like eating. They have more sensitivity to light. Like, so how does one go from headache to migraine? Like, what's happening in that process?
Well, headaches are unpleasant pain. They're in your head. They cause pressure, and there's aching, and they can range from mild to severe. And they actually occur on both sides of your head. Some There are some specific areas where headaches can occur, including the forehead, the temples, the back of the neck. You know, and a headache can last even for 30 minutes, to even a week. So there are common headaches, that are like a tension headache. Trigger for these headaches, include the stress, as we talked. Uh, if I have a muscle strain because maybe I didn't do the exercise right, or maybe whatever, or the culprit of stress that can give us to insight. So these tensions they're not only the only headache. Other headaches include, like cluster headache.
You froze for like 2 minutes. You were saying cluster headaches.
Okay, and then I went to migraine, and I talked. Clusters are periods of headaches. It comes for 60 seconds. It comes back. It goes. But then
Hmm.
migraines, they're very intense. There's a difference between migraine and headaches. They are severe. There are other symptoms, include nausea, pain behind the eye or the ear, pain in the temples. Uh, we see spots or flashing lights. There is sensitivity to light or sounds. Sometimes people lose temporary vision loss, or they could be vomiting. See, when we compare, with uh, tension or other headaches, migraine headache pain can be from moderate to severe. Some people experience, so bad that this migraine, they have to go to emergency room.
Wow.
They typically affect one side of the head or the other side. No. So migraine headaches are typically divided into different categories. One is called aura, and the other one's called without aura. Aura refers to the sensation that comes before the migraine starts, and that can happen 10 seconds to 30 minutes before the attack. So that's the difference. Some migraines, some people even experience, 1 or 2 days, some symptoms like depression, constipation, frequent yawning, irritability, the neck stiffness, and unusual food craving. That could be, some symptoms that come before the migraine. So the problem here is that basically uh, we need to identify, the, some of the things, how severe it is. There is a sensation, the feelings of pressure, it normally comes, in the forehead or in the skull. Sensation that can come on one side of the head, the other side of the head. So this is something that has to be identified. But in any psychological stress trigger, these conditions, that have been occurring and been developing through years have a lot of stress, and that's creating some conditions with the brain that affects a lot of people, and it's a very sad thing because some people can not even do anything. They have to go and be in the room, close the windows. Nobody can walk in there. Any noise could create more headaches.
So then, what I guess what can people do if they're having, especially frequent headaches or frequent migraines? Like if it's something that's happening regularly. Like what are some advice for people in that kind of situation?
I would recommend to drink water. The water will help a lot. Okay, be sure that you have at least 2 liters of water every day. Okay, for people that already have some issues with migraine, uh, let's be sure that that's part of your daily routine. No? Have your water, drink water during the day. That is just absolutely a must if I want to avoid having more of these migraines. But that's not all. No? Eat on time. Don't skip meals because the metabolic process and the metabolic clock can be affected, which will affect the amount of interaction between these blood vessels, the nervous system, and some of the other organs in the body. So you don't want to disrupt anything that's orally have to happen during the day. This is a microscopic activities where every cell, every organ knows at one moment you have to make this enzyme, when do you need this hormone, at one moment you need to inhibit this hormone. So it's very important that you eat on time and don't skip meals and don't eat late because you don't want to affect your digestive system. You don't want to interfere with detoxification. If you eat late, as you know, there's 4 to 6 hours before this food it has been digested. It's in the bloodstream. Okay, so the fact that you eat now and you feel satisfied doesn't mean that the food is already in the blood. That takes hours. So if you eat like late, 9 p.m., 8:30 p.m., so now it'll be until 2 o'clock probably when everything is in the bloodstream. 2 o'clock in the morning, you're already sleeping. And there is another function that has to happen while the time you eat sleeping, which is detox, because so many cells die during the day, so many proteins have to be replaced that are now toxic. So, and it takes between 7.5 hours to 8 hours during the time you're sleeping when a lot of these processes happen. So if you are eat at 9, now by 2 in the morning or 2:30, this food is already in your bloodstream. So your body is going to do a priority. You're going to prioritize the digestion. So your detoxification won't begin until digestion is over. So these two systems never really work at the same time. So that's why eating on time. Avoid having anything that has sugar, anything that has processed flour, bread, cakes, so forth and so on. Anything that has any kind of sugar. So you don't have to try to avoid that. I mean, carbohydrates that come in fruits is okay, is good. If you have already some problem with this, be sure that you include fruits that produce anti-inflammation. They have some chemicals, micronutrients like papaya, um, pineapple. Unless you have diabetes, then you're going to have to be careful on what fruit you eat. So turmeric, use
The turmeric?
uh, turmeric. It helps because there is an inflammation. When there is headaches, it means there is inflammation in the body. So because of this condition we discussed, that that stress creates inflammation, lack of enough sleep produces inflammation. So now the blood vessels are going to be affected, and these inflammatory markers are going to be affecting the walls of the blood vessels. So it's going to be probably physiological stress that is being created by some other issues related to psychological stress. So another thing that you can do is breathing exercise. Okay,
Okay.
we have to remember This is about contraction of blood vessels, which means certain parts of the brain are not receiving enough oxygen or enough nutrients. Okay. So we're going to have to probably at the moment or when we feel the signal that's happening, breathe. Okay. Do some breathing exercise. And this is the one that probably is appropriate for that. And, we have to remember that always headaches come after the stress, the psychological stress, and not immediately, not necessarily immediately, because maybe I'm angry with you and I'm under stress. That means that I have adrenaline, kind of pumping adrenaline. I feel that I have to solve this problem and I have to show this boy how life is supposed to be. Uh, and then I call you and I call my wife and say, call this boy. And then I do my little rumination. I need adrenaline. So there's going to be a lot of adrenaline. It won't be headache right away. The headaches starts, once when, this condition is off the table. Okay. And then I'm going to start having the headache. So
So could you technically be having like a headache or migraine a day or two after you've had a
an episode with somebody or with yourself, or maybe say it can happen a few hours later, the next day, 2 days later. Okay. It depends. It depends on some other uh, internal mechanism in your body. What else is happening? And includes, so many things. Nutrition, the hormones that you're producing, inhibition of some hormones. So there is a cascade of other conditions. But the body is trying to kind of tame the problem, fix it, avoid having to you go from that kind of crisis. So the entire body will try to really kind of cooperate, be sure that that brain doesn't have a headache because, it's going to affect the function and you're not going to go to work and you need to move. You need to see your friends as part of your, your health. So the entire body kind of trying to help. So you may not see the effect right away, but then it's going to come maybe 15 minutes later or 2 days later. But yeah, it's possible to have this condition. So this is the breathing exercise. Since the stress is related to this, these manifestations. Okay, do the breathing. Okay, and doing by inhaling. Okay, inhaling a short period of time compared with the exhale. So I will inhale through the nose. So I will do this, and then I exhale longer. Okay, then I inhale again. Exhale longer. And I will do that like about, 10 times. And then after that, okay, I'm gonna need, a little bit of energy. So I can kick some energy and a little bit of adrenaline by inhaling, a couple of times. And then I exhale.
so these are short, quick breaths.
Quick shorts, inhale.
Okay.
So, do that like 4 times. So that way you bring your these systems of alert and calm, in the right balance. So, and you may need to really do this, until you know how to do it. Okay, so that's an exercise that can help. And also, be sure that you are clear with what's happening. Okay, and don't postpone anything that you are aware of. You feel you're aware of you need water, then don't wait. Just go and get the water. You haven't eaten, go and eat. Okay, don't just keep persisting the same thing. Many people, when this little headache begin, they ignore it. They just keep working. No, they think it's gonna go away. Okay, I mean, of course. I mean, you've probably seen this happen before, but it's not because you had changed anything about the mental condition. Okay? Probably you feel better is because the rest of your body is helping you. So you can be aware and understand and healthy. That doesn't mean the problem is gone. Your kidneys and your liver and your blood vessels help together. Your heart. to be sure that you don't continue with the headache. That's why the headache goes away after a few minutes or a few seconds. Doesn't mean that it's done. The problem is not finished. So trying to be aware of what is your habits, eating habits, sleeping habits, and try to start correcting them.
Awesome. Well, I honestly I think that was very well said, very good advice. And headaches, especially because headaches and migraines, it seems like that's something that a lot of people deal with on a regular basis. And so hopefully this was very valuable to anyone who was able to watch, listen to this. And if you know someone who maybe has been having trouble with headaches and migraines, share this video, share this audio with someone, because at the end of the day, we really just want to make sure that people are being educated on these things so they can have a happier life, because it's not fun when you're going through the day with a migraine, or you're trying to take care of 3 kids and you have a headache. And so,
Yeah.
Dad, did you have any last words?
Well, we may relate these things with the environment, and we may kind of say, my spouse is giving me a headache, my kids give me a headache, uh, but that's not the case. Of course, there are some other things that trigger. That could be internally, could be a hormonal disbalance that can trigger a headache. Alcohol triggers a headache, afterwards. Uh, some other substance, addictive substance, can trigger a headache. The consumption of coffee after a while can trigger a headache after you feel good, maybe a few hours later. So, we have to be aware of what is really happening. And if it's in hormonal imbalance, normally related to psychological stress. So we're going to have to probably deal with the root, so the rest of things can start going away.